Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Molly. I am a life and relationship coach. I'm currently quarantining in upstate New York. Normally, I have a coaching practice outside of New York City. So, change of scenery for me, but it's so good to connect with you all virtually. And what I'm going to talk about today is reconnecting to our feminine nature, especially in times of uncertainty, really reconnecting with ourselves and how that can impact our relationships and our connections and the level of intimacy that we have in our lives. So a little bit more about me. So I used to work a corporate job and my life looked really good. Everything, on the externals, I had a very good paying job. I had plenty of friends, but my relationships, there was a depth that wasn't missing. And so I left the corporate world. I did some soul searching and I really started to study the dynamics of relationships because it was a place that I personally really struggled in my life. And so, like I said, I kind of went on this soul search, spiritual journey. I traveled a lot. I worked with teachers from all over the world. And what I really learned was the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. And so through my studies, I learned that I was a very masculine driven woman. And so I'll get into this in more detail, but we all have masculine and feminine qualities in ourselves. So the masculine is very goal-oriented, task-oriented, very direct, very overt. I'm sure you know maybe some more masculine women that you know in your life. So that was just how that was how I operated. I worked really hard in my career, and I went after the things I wanted, and there was nothing wrong with that. But I was having trouble communicating and I wasn't having the depth of connection that I really wanted. And so when I really learned about what the feminine was, the feminine, on the other hand, is very dynamic. It's a little bit softer. It's more creative. It's like when we're in flow, it's like we're very in touch with our feminine nature. And so you might know some very feminine women in your life who, maybe don't follow structure or are very led in different directions all the time. So the ultimate like state that we want to be in is we want to be really fluid in both pieces of ourselves. So understanding and appreciating what our masculine can do for us, but then also staying really connected to our feminine nature. So I've created this presentation and like I said, just chime in when things come up. So reconnecting to your feminine nature, letting yourself be led to all that you really want. So if you're anything like me, maybe you work a lot. You have a lot of good friends, but sometimes you wonder, do they really know me? Do they see all the parts of me? Maybe there's something missing. You can't quite put your finger on it. And maybe you were like me too. Everything was pretty good. You have no complaints, but sometimes you wonder, is there more for me? Is there more to be experienced? Maybe you're always running out of time. Your intimate life with your partner or with previous partners, it's been better, or you haven't had intimacy in a while, physical intimacy. Maybe you look forward to the weekends on most weeks, and you're always looking for ways to blow off steam. Maybe even you feel underappreciated in your life, a little misunderstood by the people that love you, that are connected to you. Sometimes you might question, am I depressed? Am I just always anxious? Will it be like this forever? Feel free to jump in the chat if anything's coming up so far, if you have any questions or thoughts. So I have good news. If you've related, if any of those felt true, it doesn't have to be this way. Imagine you didn't have to change anything in your life. You didn't have to get rid of all the relationships that you had. You didn't have to get the new job if it feels unfulfilling. You didn't have to burn everything down. You could keep your same exact life, but instead, your life felt more dynamic. You felt more full, less depleted. You were willing to take more risks. You are more expressed for the people in your life. You're more alive in all parts of your life. You have unshakable trust and confidence. You have a dream partnership, amazing intimacy, the relationship that you've always wanted. Here's the thing. We have a biological need for intimacy. And when that's not getting met, we can't move forward. We will stay stuck. And so if you don't have any of those imagined scenarios I mentioned, and that's not your reality, this is maybe why. A lot of times we run on empty. We take care of everyone else before ourselves. We're starved, we're hungry. We consume a lot of things unconsciously. We're scrolling through social media, we're taking in the news, we're consuming negativity, we're taking on too much in our lives. We're letting people, we're taking in a lot. We're taking in not necessarily the things that are nourishing us. And so we keep ourselves stuck. We're in similar patterns. We feel blocked around what it is that we really want. And we don't know how to receive properly. We don't know how to let the good in. And so we aren't getting filled up by the things that are actually meant to nourish us. Maybe we withhold the truth. We're not always honest. We withhold love, appreciation, gratitude. And it's not your fault at all. That's the good news, is it's not your fault. But when this is happening, it makes it even harder to get the basic level of intimacy that we need. As women especially, we've been raised with a lot of challenging what I call female conditioning. It's the voices, it's the cultural norms, it's all the things that we've been told to believe about ourselves. Don't look this way, don't take up too much space. You have to be low maintenance, don't want too much. What will the family think? Don't be a burden. If I say the truth, they'll leave. Maybe I'll get fired. Don't do that. All these things that we're constantly told, especially as women, there's so much pressure on us to look certain ways, to do certain things. And so we disconnect from a really important part of ourselves. And there is a better, softer way. And it starts with desire. Oops. So desire is the language of the feminine. And when I first heard that word in my training, I had all sorts of thoughts around it. Like, desire, is that just some weird, like, I judged the word. You know, I only knew it in the context of like 1980s weird erotic novels. Like, the word desire, it wasn't in my vocabulary until I really started to understand what it meant. And desire is the language of the feminine. It's the starting point of everything you want. It's your truth. It's your power. Specific, definite desires when things start to shift. It's not a hope or a wish, it's your truth. And so desire is letting ourselves want the things that we want. Permission to slow down, to really get in touch, to really tune in to what it is that we want. And so turning towards that, because of this conditioning, we think of others so much. We often think of others way more than we think of ourselves. And so reconnecting to the things that we really want, minute to minute, the simple things, the breakfast in bed, the specific, how you like your tea, how you like things made for you. Like, the more specificity, the better. But when I first started on this path, I was not connected to the things that I wanted at all. I just kept getting more of what I didn't want. And I didn't actually know how to tune into my own body and listen to what it really wanted. Number 2, attention. So where you put your attention grows, and our attention is our biggest superpower. Have you ever had the experience of having someone be totally present with you? They're just really listening, they're really taking you in, they're curious, they're asking you questions, like you have their full attention. And your attention is your biggest commodity. And so what you put your attention on grows. And it's when we can start to really consciously use our attention that our lives become more magnetic. Are we using our attention to focus on the negative, to focus on all the things that we don't want? Or are we using it to be rooted in what we do want, rooted in desire, rooted in creation, rooted in our bodies? So The biggest practice I have clients use is to just bring awareness to where our attention is going. Because if it's going in places that aren't fulfilling or aren't good, chances are we're going to get more of that. So where can we start to turn our attention back onto ourselves, making ourselves a priority and rooted in desire? The next thing, number 3, I want to talk about is called energy accounting. So often when we feel depleted, when we feel burnt out, when we are ready for the weekend, when we are just exhausted and we don't have enough, we're not full, what I'll have clients do, it's called an energy accounting. Got a question here. Energy accounting inventory. So I used to work in corporate finance and I studied accounting as well. And so you can literally use these principles in your own life. And so what I'll have clients do is I'll have them, there's 6, I have 5 on here, but I'm gonna add 1 more. So make 6 categories for your life. The first is your relationships, your most important relationships and dating, your intimate life, physical, emotional intimacy, your health, money, leisure, and then emotional habits is the other category. And so when we start to look at our life as a literal inventory, you can literally make a spreadsheet. You can make 2 columns, one called cultivation and one called expenditure. So cultivation would be assets. It would be things that fill you up, things that make you feel better. Expenditure would be all the things that you're doing that drain your energy, that cause disconnection in your relationships, that don't make you feel good. So some examples of how you can inventory your relationships are, looking at your relationships. Where are you not being totally honest? Where are you holding on to resentments? Where are you bitter? Where are you withholding? Withholding love, withholding your truth, withholding desire. And so all those things expend our energy from our relationships and they make us resentful at the people in our lives. And so some things that you can do to actually fill up in your relationships are speak your truth, ask for the things that you want, express gratitude, create intentional time together, share memories, share things that feel good. I have like 10 plus, this is only just like this is like 1/10 of the work I do with clients, but really starting to look at using your attention, what behaviors are depleting your energy and what behaviors are bringing you more energy and more connection. In our intimate lives, when am I, engaging in physical intimacy out of obligation because my partner wants to? Am I faking it? Do I really want it? Those behaviors expend our energy and they make us, again, feel resentful at the acts, the actual having of the intimacy. And so some things that we can do in our intimate lives to fill us back up are really only engaging when we want to, when we feel excited, when we feel turned on. Being honest, asking for adjustments, asking for something different, asking for something to be a different way, a new way. Those are ways that we can start to fill up and start to feel better about these experiences that we're having. An example of some inventory in health would be, obviously, am I working out? Am I moving my body? Am I walking? Am I stretching? Am I doing yoga? Am I doing things that feel good for it? Also attuned eating. Am I listening to what my body needs? Am I putting nourishing food in it? Or am I speaking negatively to my body? Am I restricting it? Am I eating my feelings? These are all things in the category of health that can start to deplete us and not feel good either. Some things in the category of money. Am I generous with money? Do I invest in myself? Am I conscious of my debt? Or am I obsessing over my money? Am I ignoring my money completely? Some examples in the category of leisure. Am I deliberately resting or am I nonstop scrolling social media? Yeah, that's what I've got for that. So this is a tool that I cannot recommend enough. If you feel disconnected in any sort of way to your own self and your relationships, really starting to create a thorough inventory of what's going on, what's not feeling good. And this requires the practice of attention. And so through these 3 tips, really letting your feminine lead, slowing down, becoming best friends with your desire and your body, and really integrating your masculine and your feminine qualities. So the masculine likes to take action, and the feminine likes to feel and be embodied and be in our body. So how can you use the masculine structures in your life to let more of your feminine come out? Okay, so that was the bulk of the presentation. And then I wanted to leave everyone with just one assignment. So it can be really hard to be connected to our desire, especially right now. There's so much going on. There's so much unknown. Life just isn't the same. You can't just go out and do the things that you used to want to do. And so a really great homework assignment I've been giving the participants and people that I work with is for 24 hours, just setting yourself up with a container. So either give yourself a full day or give yourself 2 days, and just minute to minute asking yourself, asking your body, what is it that I want? Do I maybe want to sleep in a little bit late today? Do I want to eat cereal in bed? Do I want someone to make me breakfast? Do I want to stretch on the floor? Do I want to take a shower? Like minute to minute, just listening to what it is that your body really wants, what it's telling you, and letting yourself be led by that. Because sometimes desire is so uncomfortable because it tells us things that maybe we don't want to hear or that are inconvenient. And so we have to retrain ourselves to have that voice be heard. Because at least for myself, when I was just in production mode and taking care of everyone else and handling everything else, I couldn't hear my own voice, and I wasn't slow and deliberate. I wasn't using my attention consciously enough to really know what that voice wanted to say. And so I think as women, we have a superpower. Like we just know, we have super high-end intuition. We know what we want. And so it's like giving ourselves permission to want the things that we want, go after them, and then believe that we can have them. And so I think those 3 things are super helpful. Just staying rooted in your desire, using your attention consciously and deliberately, and then accounting for all the areas of your life. What's depleting me? What's filling me up? And then making those adjustments. So setting new boundaries, like maybe not connecting with the person that consumes a lot of you versus fills you up and is supportive and is encouraging. So that's the bulk of my presentation. I definitely wanted to leave some time for questions, but I recommend everyone try out that assignment, see how it goes, see what comes up. It might surprise you. It might be super confronting. A lot of people say, I couldn't do that for 24 hours. And that might be a really good sign of how we shame our feminine and how we don't want to listen to it and how uncomfortable it can be. I got a question. Can you tell some things that happened to you when you started this? Yeah, great question. Thank you so much for asking, Anne. When I started doing this work, it was really, really confronting. It hit upon all the voices that I had that what I want is inconvenient. No one wants to give me what I want. I need to take care of everything myself. That was probably the biggest one. And so when I was in relationships with men, I would be super self-sufficient and I would want to do everything for me. And one of the biggest things I teach the women I coach is men are just natural providers. Like they really want to help. They want to contribute. They want to serve us. Like just being connected to a woman is such a privilege for them. Like we just literally emanate a different, like the feminine, we emanate a frequency that they do not have access to. There's for sure more sensitive and more feminine men that I'm sure you guys have all experienced. But like as women, we just have qualities that they don't have access to. And so I didn't realize that. I wasn't tapped into that. I didn't believe that that was powerful and important. Like I was so dismissive of my own feminine nature. And so when I started to get in relationships and date, I didn't want men to help me. I wanted to do it all myself. But there's something that really gets unlocked. And that's literally what intimacy is. When you let someone see you, when you are vulnerable and when you express the desire, like I would love for you to go out and get me lunch. And then like specifically the kind of lunch that I wanted or the coffee order that I wanted. And so desire is best in specificity. I think you guys know the word. And so that was a really big roadblock that I came up. And so much of my coaching is just education on literally the masculine and feminine, but then how we relate to men, because we've been taught so many things. I was just super resentful at men when I started, but there's something that gets unlocked in our connection that I can't access myself. And so I think like deliberately getting in touch with the things that you want so that then you can communicate that to a partner. Great question. Glad you asked. But I would also say to the second part, the roadblocks, is it's just a lot of times when we're learning to really speak our truth and we're learning our desire, we can feel like a broken record and we can feel really, really sensitive at first. It can feel so vulnerable. So just being kind to yourself and like really taking it slow, I think is so, so important. Like, I think on the micro level, that's why I love to give that assignment, like just listening minute by minute to what it is you want and approving of that, because we just hold so much shame around wanting things that we want, wanting the intimacy that we want, wanting the depth that we want. And so how do we, like, the antidote of shame is approval and acceptance, like loving ourselves for exactly what it is we want, even if it doesn't look like what our society is telling us or what our friends even want. That's your power, is in that. Do you think men need yes, great question, Margaret. I think they do. I think they don't, they mean really, her question was, do men need very specific instructions? Yes, they do. Not from a place of like patronizing, like they're idiots and they're dumb, but just because they really genuinely, like, we are totally mysterious to them. And so I found the best way to really get what we want is to specifically ask for it. And that is super vulnerable. Yeah. And a lot of, like, the most common miscommunication I have in my relationship is like, oh, I didn't know you wanted that. Like, oh, I didn't realize that hurt your feelings. Oh, I didn't realize that hurt you. They really don't know. And it's not from a place of they're bad men. They just, like, they don't know what they don't know. And so as a kind, they are kind of fixers. Yeah. Like, the tool I say is approve and reinforce. So when your partner does something you really like, you know, thank you for calling me. Thank you for doing this. That felt really good. You're approving of them so they know to continue to do the things that you like, and then adjusting them kindly. Like, I love that you did this. Could you actually do this instead? What made you decide to get into coaching? Great question. Thanks for asking. I didn't know that I was going to become a coach, but it was really a self-exploration. So I wanted to know why my own relationships weren't working. And so I ended up, it was just a fascinating world for me, because there was no like healthy relationships 101 class. There was no how to communicate easily, at least in my education system. I professionally studied finance and accounting. And so I was really interested in the material. And then around the second year, people were like, you know a lot, Molly, like you should be a coach. So I did a formal coaching training, and then I apprenticed with the company that trained me. And so at first I got a few clients, and now women find me from all over. So I coach women on the West Coast, here in New York and Boston. But it was really a desire to help share the information that changed my life, because I was super confused and I didn't know how to have healthy connection and intimacy. And then it all shifted when, you know, I just started to have more approval for the things that I wanted and have a backbone and have boundaries. And so it's really from a desire to serve and connect with more women. Yes. Do you have any books you recommend? Definitely. So there's this incredible woman, Alison Armstrong. I studied with her. We're definitely worth looking her up, but she has two books. One is called The Queen's Code, and one is called Keys to the Kingdom. So she talks about all the stages of men, from prince all the way to king, and how they need very specific things at very different stages and how to communicate with them at those different stages. And then the Queen's Code is great. It's just how to like own our desires, how to have boundaries, how to powerfully ask for what we want. Her name is Alison Armstrong. All of her courses, all of her stuff is great. She's on Instagram. So I've loved all of her content. I also recommend a book. It's just called Boundaries by Dr. Cloud and Henry Townsend, I think. That's a really good book for relationships, for marriage, just like Boundaries 101, how to communicate. And then What's another book that I recommend? Women Who Run with the Wolves. I just started rereading that. That's like ancient mythology. It's like our wild feminine reconnecting to like the ancient archetypes of women and as far back as they go. I love just mythology, especially in times of uncertainty, like going back to our history and just like reconnecting to the earliest women that we learned from, I think is so powerful. So it's an old, I think it's from the early 90s. So that's called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pincus Estes. And I can't recommend that enough. I think every woman should absolutely read that book. So I think we're close to time, but those were really great questions. Thanks so much, guys. This was wonderful.